Hey everybody, this is going to be another contest video. This one is for my good friend Josh over at JC Flipside Vinyl. You know JC, you've seen him on my channel. His channel just has blown up over the last year, and he just recently hit 3,000 subs. Holy moly. 3,000, yeah, not misspeaking, 3,000 subscribers. That is amazing. And to put that in perspective, 3,000 is more than the attendance at Tiger Stadium for any given home game. So think about that for a minute. That is just incredible. But Josh totally deserves it. He is the man in the VC, and love his channel, love his videos. It's a reason why I know in advance of Record Store Day what it is that I need to buy. And he's always kind of keeping us up to date on what new releases are on the horizon. So it helps me having to do the research myself, and I know you guys probably feel the same way. But Josh's contest is pretty simple. He wants us to, number one, shout out a channel, and then he wants us to show an album from the 70s, from the 80s, and from the 90s. So the channel that I want to shout out is, I want to shout out Mike's Got the Spins. Love his channel over there. If you haven't checked out Mike's channel yet, it is a whole lot of fun. He just has this boundless enthusiasm for the music and the records he shows. He's always showing interesting stuff. There's so many artists that I never heard of before until I checked out Mike's channel. So definitely, what? I'm in the middle of making a video. Look, I already got a bad voice, okay? I'm already, yeah, okay. Anyway, sorry for that interruption. Where was I? Mike's Got the Spins, fantastic channel. So please go over and check Mike out. Now, for the albums that I'm going to show, for the 70s, I'm going to show Deep Purple and their album, Who Do We Think We Are. Now, this is probably the weakest of the studio albums from the, what is it, Mark II lineup, I guess. The one with Ian Gillan as lead vocalist. And, I mean, you really can't blame them. They really got burned out, I think, with touring and having to churn out an album every year. I don't think it's a bad album. In fact, one of my favorite, in fact, it's probably my favorite Deep Purple song of all time, Woman from Tokyo, or Tokyo, as it is spelled on the back of this record. Not sure why it's got that spelling, but anyway, Super Trooper is on here. Smooth Dancer, Rat Bat Blue is a great song. So I didn't, you know, for me, I've always been partial to Fireball and Machine Head. I think that In Rock is a great album. So this is probably the black sheep of that original series of albums, but it's still great. It's not a bad album. It's just, it doesn't have the staying power, for me anyway, of the three albums before it, but still love it. My Woman from Tokyo, that was one of my earliest musical memories. I remember hearing that on the radio and thinking, this is the best song ever. Fallen in love with it as an early age. My dad had this record and would play it on the turntable, and I remember that song. Just the whole organ, keyboards, the you know, driving, kind of chugging rhythm of that track. Still today, I mean, it takes me right back to when I was younger whenever I hear that song. So that is my 70s. For my 80s, I'm going deep into the 80s, into, I think this was released in 1989. I'm going with the soundtrack to the film Rattle and Hum. And this was really a hybrid of live and studio tracks. You've got the first vocal by The Edge ever on here on Van Diemen's Land, which is a cover from, I think some song from the 19th century, but who knew Edge could sing? How about that? But you've got the great single Desire on here, All Along the Watchtower, that Bob Dylan / Jimi Hendrix cover. Kind of a gospel reading of I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. Silver and Gold, which I think was a B-side that they do live version of Pride in the Name of Love. God Part 2, which is a sequel to the John Lennon track. So I know this took a lot of heat in the press. I think people were calling YouTube pretentious back then, and you know, there was air of self-importance I think that pervaded this album, but it's still enjoyable. I mean, it was going to be really, really difficult to follow up the Joshua Tree anyway, and the fact that they put out a movie and kind of took that whole thing on. And so I still, it's an enjoyable listen to me. I love it's kind of a mixed bag of the live stuff and some interesting studio cuts. So wanted to show that one. I don't pull that one out nearly as enough. And for my 90s album, I'm going to go with an artist that up until recently I thought could do no wrong. He was on a string of fantastic albums. And this one is no exception. I think this was late in the 90s as well, like 99 maybe. But I'm going with Midnight Vultures from Beck. And I don't want to call this necessarily a comedy album, but I think Beck's tongue is firmly in his cheek. It's definitely a soul, kind of a funk type album that he does. This was after Odelay, at least the kind of full Beck studio album, if you don't count Mutations, which is kind of his acoustic album. But nonetheless, I think this is a lot of fun. You can tell Beck is having so much fun. He's playful. He's kind of... it's like a jokey, I don't want to say jokey because that makes it seem like he's, trying to be Weird Al Yankovic. I mean, he's not. He's definitely paying reverence to soul and funk and R&B on here, but he does it in such a convincing way, but with a sense of humor. Some of his lyrics are just outright silly. But I've always loved this one, always had a soft spot for it. Not crazy about the cover, but whatever. I have no idea what the hell is going on there. But anyway, that is my entry for Josh. So, Josh, congratulations. You are the man, and well-deserved 3,000 subs, the hardest working man in the VC. Hope you're doing well, and take care.